Level 1, Paper 3, final part, video part 3. Okay, question 7. So we've got to write the following numbers in order of size. Start with the smallest number. So really to compare these numbers as discussed in class, the easiest way to see how the numbers compare to each other is line them up by the decimal points and then make them all be the same width or the same length by filling in any gaps with zeros. So if we do that here, if we make them all 3 digits, and then we can see that the smallest number is the number that has a 0 after the decimal point in that first column. So 0.04 is going to be the smallest number. And then still looking at that first column after the decimal point, one number's got a 1 there, one number's got a 2, so therefore the number that's got a 1 in that position is going to be the next biggest number, which means 0.2 has to be the biggest number. Next, we are looking at rounding this number 178.146 correct to 2 decimal places. So correct to 2 decimal places means that we must, in our answer, have 2, no more, no less, 2 figures after the decimal point. It does not mean you move the decimal point 2 places. It means you must have 2 figures after the decimal point. So what we're doing here is we're looking at the digit that is 2 places after the decimal point at the moment, which is the 4. And we're deciding, is that going to stay as a 4? Or is it going to round up to a 5? So what determines that is the digit that follows the 4. So we look after the 4 and it's followed by a 6. So the rule is if this digit where the 6 is 5 or higher, it rounds the 4 up to a 5. So of course the number 6 is 5 or higher. So the 4 is indeed going to round up to a 5. So the answer here is going to be 178.15. Next question, how many minutes are there in 1¼ hours? So 1 hour is 60 minutes, and a quarter of an hour is going to be 60 divided by 4, which is 15 minutes. So if we put those together, 60 plus 15 is 75. So 1¼ hours is 75 minutes. Question 8. Pierre is a teacher. There are 13 boys and 17 girls in his class. Pierre chooses one of these students at random for a presentation. Work out the probability this student is a boy. So the total number of students is what we need to know here. So if we've got 13 boys and 17 girls, then we've got a total of 30 students. And out of those 30 students, 13 out of 30 are boys. So in answer to this question, the fraction, in other words, the probability that the student is a boy, we've got a 13 out of 30 chance that the student is a boy. Now, you would simplify that if it was possible to simplify 13 over 30, but of course, because 13 is a prime number, it's not possible to simplify that fraction. Pierre travels to work on the train. He records whether the train is on time or late. These are the results after 20 train journeys. So after 20 journeys, the train was on time 15 days out of 20, and it was late on 5 days out of 20. Mark with a cross the probability the train is on time. Okay, so the chances the train was on time. So the train was on time 15 days, and 5 plus 15 is 20, or we get told in the question is 20 days in total anyway. So on 15 days out of the 20, the train was on time. And 15 over 20, because 5 goes into both, 3 times and 4 times. 15 over 20, or 15 out of 20, is the same as 3/4. So 3/4 of the time, the train was on time. And 3/4 as a decimal, if you wanted to do it as a decimal on your calculator, 3 divided by 4 is 0.75. Okay, so in terms of where this would come on this scale, so in the middle would obviously be 0.5. So 0.75 is going to be here. So depending on whether you want to label your scale in terms of fractions or decimals, you could then label that either as 0.75, or if you wanted to label it as a fraction, instead of writing 0.75, write 3/4. Next question, Juliet wants to check her gas bill. She has this information. She thinks the mean number of units was more than 300. So to work out the mean, remember we have to add all the numbers together. And once we've added all the numbers together, we divide by how many numbers there are. So 430 plus 276 plus 205 plus 168 plus 261 plus 565 gives us 1,905. And there are 6 numbers. So if we divide that by 6, we get 317.5. And of course, that is greater than 300. So is Juliet correct? Yes or no? Yes. Use a reverse calculation to show a check of your mean. So the calculation we used here to find the mean was this. So if we reverse that by saying 317.5, instead of divide, say the opposite, times. So times that by 6 is 1905. That's all that's required there. Magda owns a music venue. She has this information about the people who attended. She says about a quarter of the people were women aged between 18 and 35. So women aged 18 to 35 is these 86 people. Now, how do we know whether that's a quarter or not? Well, the only way we're going to know is if we add all the numbers together to find out how many people there were in total. So if we add all those numbers together, we find that there were a total of 430 people. And 86 out of the 430 people were women aged 18 to 35. So we could either say 86 out of, in other words, divided by 430. And that would tell us an answer of 0.2. And of course, 0.2 times 100 is 20, so that's 20%, which is 1/5, not 1/4. The other way we could have worked this out, as soon as we realise it's 86 out of 430 people, well, to work out a quarter of 430, we could have said 430 divided by 4 is 107.5. So 107.5 is 1/4 of 430, not 86. So whichever of those two ways you work it out, they lead you to the same conclusion that Magda is not correct. Final question here in these final couple of minutes. So Nick is a farmer. He's got a tank in the shape of a cuboid. Look here at the clue. 1,000 centimeters cubed. Cubic units, of course, refers to volume. So this question is asking you to find the volume of the cuboid. Volume of a cuboid, of course, is the length times the width times the height. So if we multiply those three numbers by each other, we get 405,000 centimeters cubed. 1,000 centimeters cubed equals 1 litre, so 405,000 divided by 1,000 will tell you how many litres. So that's 405 litres. And the tank is 2/3 full. So 2/3 of 405 is going to be 405 divided by 3 times 2, which means there's 270 litres in the tank. Okay, there we go. So there's our answer box, 270 litres. And that concludes our level 1 calculator paper. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Any questions, just let me know.